Welcome to the Superflow podcast. Nice to have you here, man.
Same here, man. Really excited to talk to you.
All right. So, considering you're also a podcaster, this is something where I'm going to get feedback at the end of the podcast, I think, of how this went. But let's start off with you, man. Like, tell us a bit about, your origin story. Like, who are you? How did you get to what you're doing right now? You are, of course, in a very interesting role as a growth lead at Synthes School, which is, of course, Elon Musk's sort of, let's say, side baby venture, or at least the vision is there. So, help us out with where you come from, like a little bit of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me tell you a story. At the age of 5 or 6, I got some kind of not 5 or 6. At the class 5 or 6, I got some kind of a consciousness that this is the world I'm living in. And as soon as I got some consciousness, initially I was like a very average kid. I
Hmm.
was like not even average, below average kid. And my sister used to come number one in every class. So like my parents used to compare, they see parents, they compare, oh, you're not doing good because your sister is doing good, look at her. So I asked my parent to change my school, and
Hmm.
that changed everything because I just went to the easier school to score better, but that didn't work out really well. But I was an average, like below average kid. And then suddenly my grandfather comes one day and says, I want you to be a doctor. Said,
Hmm.
okay, doctor is hard, like doctor is like something you need to really work hard on. And so, but I said, it's if it's your wish, I love you so much, I will do it, you know.
Hmm.
And so I started working really hard, and my 10th class score, my high school score were good, not great, but like better than before. And then there was this wish in me to always serve. I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm like, I want to serve people, and I want to do this like service element. And unfortunately it didn't get to the school, any
Hmm.
medical school. It was still like I think I just lost by 1%, something like that. And so that was really bad. And then I was so disappointed, I did not even want to do like study medical medicine at all. So I moved towards business. And
Hmm.
apparently I was like a very good ratta kid, like rote learning kid.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and that time there was this university that was very elite university called Institute of Business Administration. It's like IIT Mumbai,
Hmm.
Mumbai. And so I said, okay, now let's prepare for this thing, and it will work out. And I found how the game is played, and I just did better. And like I I I fucked it up the entire aptitude test,
Hmm.
but somehow the other it was exact score that was the last score needed to be in that universe. I mean, I was usually good, but that day, on the day of performance, I fucked up. And
Hmm.
that just changed my entire trajectory of career.
Hmm.
Because since I became part of the elite kids, like elite kids in the only 150 kids get admitted a year.
Hmm.
And that just being with elite people made me a hard worker. And that was like kind of you'll always get a job. So I got a
Hmm.
job, but I was bored after the university, and I said, okay, like I want to start working. And the work I got, it was in sales. And so my career started from sales and like doing door to
Hmm.
door sales. One of the time, my sales manager told me to go through all the buildings in one commercial street and
Hmm.
knock at the door and sell them a telecom connection. Think about like selling Vodafone on the. And that
Yeah.
was like that even though like I did not become a brand manager and I was salesperson, but that took all my confidence out. And then I became like, how do you say it, like deet on like getting
Hmm.
rejection.
Hmm.
And so learning rejection was that job really taught me how to cope with rejection. And then like I was performing really well, and people were really jealous. They're like 40-year-old people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they're like, hey, why this kid is working so hard, and he's a threat to us.
Hmm.
And so I saw this negative culture. I said, okay, I don't want to be here. I want to move abroad anyway. Moved abroad, studied for free, started my own thing, saw something like startup happens.
Hmm.
And then what happened was that started my first two startups, both
Hmm.
failed. The
Hmm.
third startup got to somewhere, but it was not going further. And what I learned from startup was marketing and sales. And so I said, okay, now I can be like the founders actually become great head of growth, because
Yep.
like they have sales abilities, they have operations ability, they have marketing ability, they can do anything if they want to, because then they've seen what. And so I said, okay, let's do growth stuff. And when I joined the startup, it was UserPilot. And
Mm.
so it was bootstrap startup. And so I had to start like from zero without any budget. And so I found all the bootstrap, we were promoting a startup, and just three people, we were three people in the company, and we got to 1 million in ARR.
Mm. Mm.
And that was like again another inflection point in my career, like, oh my god, I figured out how to do certain thing in a SaaS company. It takes so long time. um so for me, startup is like, like playing a game. You have to keep playing
Mm.
game to get better. It's not like that you will suck at it. It's just like you have to keep doing it. I hardly see somebody really successful really figure it out very early on.
Right.
And then joined this company called Synthesis now, which is like leading growth marketing. I always was curious. I did B2B a lot, so I wanted to move towards
Mm.
B2C and see how world is different. And it is totally different. And the best part is, though, even though I have not run a lot of channels, but just because I have a marketer's mindset, I can actually see what to be,
Mm.
what needs to be done. So there's not nothing like, oh, I can't do this because I've never done this. It's like, okay, I can't do this, but I'm open to figure it out. And this
Right.
figuring out is something that I think also the growth guys have a lot, rather than like other professions.
Right. That's very interesting stuff. You've given me so much. I'm tempted to go into your Vodafone stuff, like the door to door, but I'm actually going to go to User Pilot first. I think let's do that. Tell us about that, because Bootstrap Venture. That's probably like your, let's say, your, you can call it your claim to fame, or your starting point where it got serious. Okay, because before that it was like, okay, you're dabbling, right? You're trying your best, but this is some serious numbers, and it's like, okay, you're working with a known name, at least in the sort of bootstrap space. How was that experience? What was that? When did you join? And basically, like the A to B journey, it was like, okay, you went in. Where was the company at? And you said 1 million is where you guys took it to. So, what is that like?
So the time when I joined User Pilot, we just had some beta users,
Mhm.
who like lifetime deal users,
Mm.
and they were testing the software. And the software needed a lot of capabilities to be out in the market to be sold as a proper software. That's why this
Mm.
founder did it. But
Mm.
because of that lifetime deal users, we had a lot of reviews on Captera, and that
Mm.
was just good enough for me to say, oh, the startup has legs. And the second thing the founder did was he cold outreach to a lot of companies,
Mm.
and a lot of SaaS companies, and he got responses. He didn't get conversions, but he did get
Mm.
responses.
Mm.
And I'm like, it was a zero, and I'm like, okay, I need to grow this shit. And initially, he was like, oh, you just get me traffic. So I did got traffic on my website on my other startups, and it was just doing blogging and
Mm.
promoting the blogs the right way and backlinking it and learning a little bit about SEO. And so instead of like just like getting traffic, this is the first principle that I will suggest everybody do, is like before doing anything, you need to go understand who is the customer, who is actually who you're selling to, why you're selling to that audience, why do they love you. And even if you don't know, since I did not know who are the real customers, nobody was paying for it. um, what I did still was, I saw who my competitors were selling to. I
Mm.
said, okay, well, regardless of how people say, don't focus on your competitors, focus on your customers. But we didn't have competitors. So I had to focus on competitors to actually
Mm.
figure it out and how to be different. And yeah, I looked at like one of the companies called AppQs. That was our competitor. It's a really big brand name. So from the beginning, we had to appear bigger. So like, even
Mm.
though we had zero revenue, we were like, the website was classic. People could get it, how the software works. We spend a lot of energy on appearing big and being a big brand, and we still do. And yeah, and so I talked to a lot of people who were selling to the same audience, and I
Mhm.
said, okay, how do these people actually like to buy?
Mm.
So they said, they don't click on ads, they don't like ads. They like to do through content. I said, okay, content, I'm really okay. I don't think I'm great at content, but I can start with content.
mm,
And whenever you start with content, you start with bottom of the funnel content, something they're
mm,
already looking for right now. There must be 3 to 5% of the people who are looking from the entire TAM a solution right now, but it's good enough for you to be a sustainable business. So I
mm,
started writing like a bottom of the funnel content, and that was all about like software tools,
mm,
um, how to do certain thing with this feature based tools, all those like high intent where somebody is looking for solving a jobs to be done. And
mm,
so wrote everything about that and saw like, oh, already we are getting traction. And then I saw like we're getting traction on from G2, so I doubled down on G2 as well. And then I
mhm,
saw like Quora, somebody
mm,
like a lot of early stage startup exploited Quora a lot. So I said, okay, you know what, like whenever I wrote a query, Quora was like fifth or sixth number on that search. That's okay,
mm,
let's double down on Quora. I still get to today, like it's been like almost 3 years. Still today my that post drives conversions to the business.
mm.
um, and yeah, so found out all the bootstrap way of doing things. And then
Right.
like as soon as we reached like 1 million in ARR, we went to like 500 startups. And like we didn't need 500, 500 needed us. um,
Mm,
so we went through it, went to Silicon Valley, stayed there for 3 months, and figure, and then pandemic happened, so like had to come back. But yeah, so I would say like bootstrap is the most challenging time of your life, in terms
mm,
of when you're bootstrapping, especially like the reason why I did it was because I wanted to get paid in the
mm,
bank,
mm,
right? If
mm,
the company's making money, I'm making money. And
mm,
every 2 months, I was like, okay, you need to increase my salary because like the company's getting the milestone that we need to be. And yeah, and that was our journey. But it's hard. Like if somebody has to start bootstrapping today, I would definitely not suggest to do bootstrapping from day one. I would suggest like
mm,
start services business from day one. And then and it should be very similar to what you're already doing. Like
mm,
for example, think about if you are a growth marketer, you for example you create a conversion rate optimization tool. You start offering conversion rate optimization services,
mm,
right? And then like in the meantime keep building the software. That's like a good approach because you're still making money from the beginning, and you don't have to go and like I would say like you don't have to go and like go hungry basically. Like you can still
right.
keep moving the target.
Nice. You went to a lot of stuff, okay, and got me thinking. Which is, of course, the natural, logical question that comes to mind is, um, how are you learning all this stuff? Okay, so I get that. Okay, you've gone from, because this is like a lot of stuff. There's SEO involved. There's product positioning involved. There's offer creation. There is a lot of stuff happening here. I'm pretty sure you dabbled a lot into figuring out how pricing works. Um, how are you? What's like the how were you like where were you learning from? That's a big question. Okay, were you going through just looking at people, reverse engineering what's already happening, or was it like, let's say, a particular approach you took? That's something that got me like a little bit curious about that, because that's something that I also think about here.
Yeah, so the reverse engineer is one of the answers. What I did was like I saw like what competitors are doing, what similar people selling to similar audience are doing. Um, but to be honest, like I started with Neil Patel like three years ago, and moved on to like following Hrefs a lot,
Mm,
their content. My also one of the approach is like instead of whatever I want to learn, there must somebody selling services regarding that. So I
mm,
go and learn from their website because they would not lie. They will pitch their services in the blog or
mm,
whatever, but they will tell you the secrets, right? Nobody
mm,
usually you have to pay for those secrets, right? Um, so nobody would actually give you that content for free except that company that actually wants you to use that services.
mm,
So Hrefs is one good example. When I wanted to learn SEO, writing, content marketing. Then there is this like, and the second thing that really helped me was listening to a lot of podcasts. So I think per week, usually I listen to around 10, 12 hours of podcasting. That's a lot,
mm,
right?
mm,
Um, so like since 2017 I've been listening to podcasts, and like there was this one podcast that really helped me a lot as a bootstrapper, was this the SaaS podcast.
Mhm.
And why? Because all the founders came and told their journey
Mm.
regarding the SaaS they were building, and that helped me a lot. But that podcast also told me the shiny object syndrome as well. You should
Right.
not do everything; you should do only one thing. So I think, first of all, like my way of figuring out is, so right now I'm in the same boat, but I have money in the bank. But like I'll explain you that later. But um the only way to figure out something to learn is to first of all go what people are selling services to and what are they offering for free. And
Mhm.
then the second thing is that listen to podcast has a lot of good content, because the thing is, in blog writing you can write a shit blog, and you will never know if somebody reads it,
Mm.
right? But
Mm.
if you write a good podcast, if you make a good podcast, people will come and tell you you did a good podcast, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
so the barrier is higher because you actually want to make sure that the content is good enough. If it's not good enough, it's not getting shared, it's not getting download. If it's not getting download, means that you will eventually close the shop. So
Mm.
what I can tell you, with blog writing, the feedback loop is less, because like it takes 6 months to get to the point. But if you
Mm.
release a podcast and when you share it on social media, people will get back to you. When you write a blog post and post it on social, people don't like it actually, so they don't
Mm.
give you feedback on it. The short answer is like just learning from podcasts, and especially good podcasts that were like there and have more than 100 episodes, gives you
Mm.
this trust and ability. This guy is going, means something is going on. So this ass podcast was really good. Then there was this guy called Dave Gehart. Not sure if you know
Mhm.
him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Dave Gehart was a really good inspiration. He gave a lot of good content for free from Drift.
Mm.
Now I don't follow him anymore because
Mm.
first of all I'm in B2C, and second, like I think I have reached my limit.
Mm.
Now what I do is, like, I think Twitter is a really good place to actually find good people and follow the content. So it's just like following people, learning from the maximum, and then moving on, right?
Mm.
And so that's how I learn. And the third way of learning, which I think, I just buy courses or get mentorship. So the
Mm.
easiest way, this is the best hack ever, because then you save a lot of time. You need to be friends with somebody who is already experienced in all of this and can tell you answer to your questions. That's it.
Mm.
Somebody who's done everything. So I have this friend who's been to Google, been to like different SaaS companies, and like she's a friend of mine, like really friend.
Mm.
And I became friends over a period of time. I initially did not went in through the approach of like taking advantage of her knowledge, but I just became friend. And I said, oh, whenever I have a question, she's done it. She must have tried the channel already, and then
Mm.
she has the main feedback from me. You should do this. Like, so this is what I learned from this channel. She will not tell me exact approach. She will
Mm.
send me some blogs, resources, but like she'll tell me like these are three things you need to remember the channel. So for example, with Google Ads, when I was learning Google Ads for the first time, my landing page was a bit longer, and she said, no, no, no,
Mhm.
make it shorter, because people who are clicking on the ad, they don't have time to actually
Mm.
dive into the entire thing. They just want the exact information and to convert or not convert, right? Whereas when somebody comes organic search,
Mm.
they're looking for reading something. They want to go and understand something. So the ads and search, Google Ads are different. But that's one insight nobody would have been able to tell me. Then there was this another. This is junior of mine who was really good at Google Ads, and she told me like, oh, you should not run like, for example, maximize clicks and maximize conversion automated bidding, because that
Mm.
takes entire budget and will not give you enough returns. You should run CPC. That's one insight.
Mm. Mm.
Like
Mm.
manual bidding was like something that I've tried it. I know for it, but like if that person telling me that, oh, you should just do manual bidding, that saved me so much of budget, so much of money, that I
Mm.
would have just lost it, because Google wants to just suck all my money and spend it, right? I mean, eventually I will do automated bidding, but like
Right.
start early on, you should just do manual bidding. So like these smaller insights, you can only
Mm.
get it somebody who's already done it and know what mistake they were doing previously. So this is the third one I would definitely tell you to go and learn from people. um, I now follow a lot of people and I pay for the content. So like there's this new, so I started with Neil Patel. Now I'm like um, Christopher Lockhead. I don't know if you know Christopher Lockhead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Category design.
Category design. So like
Yeah.
that is the guy you should follow, because for one or two reasons. One thing, I paid for his content, first of all, his blog, and like his
Mm.
pirates category. And the reason why I do it through learning from him is because he doesn't teach me something new.
mm,
You teach me something different all the time,
mm,
and that's what I want. I'm at the career phase, I know everything. I need to see, I need to get inspired rather than I need to act on a specific tactic. So
mm,
that's to give you some ideas like how I do it. And now, for example, today I never knew about Facebook ads.
mm,
I just found out one guy who knew Facebook ads better than me,
mm.
and like whenever I have a question, I ask him. I don't have to pay for any mastermind, any course or whatever, because most of the content is on YouTube for free, which is genuinely
Right.
good. Because if it's not genuinely good, YouTube will not promote it, will not share it, right? um and the unique nuance question is like, okay, that I have this guy who can tell me, and I'm gonna record a podcast with him and to release the entire, like, I know there are so many drop shippers who are getting fooled in e-commerce market, um, to learn how to do Facebook ads. And
Yeah.
apparently, Facebook ad is not that difficult. It's just like nobody's telling you how to do it, right?
It's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not that. Listen, I think it automatically brings me to the next question, because you've been saying a lot of different things like Google Ads, Facebook Ads. There's a lot of different things, which immediately brings me to a very interesting question. I think, which is always a dilemma for marketers, which not for like very young, let's say when you're just starting off in your first month or 3 months, but as soon as you start doing these multifaceted things. So which is about testing. Okay, so you know that, okay, you want to test a particular growth channel or you want to test a particular tactic. How do you decide um, which one to test? Because now the barrier to testing has become so low, right? Anyone can start a podcast, anyone can record a YouTube video, anyone can run a YouTube ad, Twitter ad, Facebook ad. What's been your sort of, let's say, thought on this? Or even if you're thinking about right now, like, how do you approach testing or deciding what to test? Because I mean, there's like so much variety of options available for marketers now.
Yeah. So one thing I can tell you is that this is something that I'm getting paid a lot more money now compared to previously. Is not
Mm,
because I have more experience. More
mm,
experience doesn't mean like I should get paid more. I get paid a lot more money based on my judgment.
mm,
So a
mm.
marketer, the better judge they are, the easier it is for them to make more money, right?
Nice.
And so
Mm,
people pay you for your judgment, not your experience. Yes, people pay you for experience, skills as well, but like judgment is the most important thing.
mm,
So how do you judge which channel is good, right? The
mm,
easiest way to check which channel is good is like, first of all, you need to know who exactly is your customer. And I'm not talking about ideal customer profile or realistic customer profile. I'm talking about, tell me that one person who is biggest fan of yours, where this person is consuming his or her content. Okay,
mm,
that's like one. Then they will say like, oh, I do it on Twitter, I do it on Facebook, I do it on LinkedIn, whatever it is, right?
mm,
Sure, they will tell you they are hanging out in this platform, but then you need to further like do user research and figure out, okay, where do you trust the most important information coming from,
mm,
right? If it's coming from LinkedIn, do you actually act on it or not? Like if it's coming from Facebook or Google ads. So you need to know which channel, right, where they are hanging out, where they love spending their time, where they seek information, and where
mm,
they act on that information. So, for example, for me, Twitter is like, if somebody is giving some content and that content is like gated, and I want to
mm,
buy that content, I'm just gonna immediately go on Twitter. I bought a lot of stuff from Twitter. Like, I mean, I spent maybe more than $5,000 on just following people's content on Twitter. So,
mm,
what I can tell you is that like that's my resource, right? That's my
mm,
resource. So if somebody wants to target me, they will go on Twitter. They will promote the content, and the content is so different that say, I don't have this knowledge. I want to finish the gap. I will. So you need to know where they're hanging out, where they act and seek information out of it. So that's one thing. The second thing is that you would not know like which are you, B2B, B2C, like where exactly you place, right? A lot of people say that they, for them, LinkedIn ads work really well. I've never
mm,
heard somebody doing LinkedIn ads so well, but some people say that it works really well. But okay, if it works really well, then it must be working really well for them. So every channel is good. You just need to know
mm,
where they're hanging out, where they seek information, where they love hanging out, where they go and act on these things, and how you're able to communicate a message in a different way that they should stop paying their attention,
mm,
watch whatever that you're doing. So,
mm,
and podcasts, YouTube, all of these things, content channels are long form content, longer like shelf channel, but also takes longer time to build it, right?
Mm.
If I start putting content on YouTube, on podcast, it will take a lot of energy, high value, high effort, no, low value, high effort, because initially there will be not, so you need to know which is has a high value. So for example, when I was at UserPilot, one place where people, so I couldn't pay for ads, we didn't have money. Apparently, like, if I wish I knew that, like, that time, that Google Ads will work really well for me. So I would have
Mm.
even would have asked somebody to loan me like $2,000, $3,000 to try those ads, right? But I didn't know that. So what I did was I created a blog which is for free, all my efforts, right? Wrote it down, shared it on a Slack channel. When somebody asked for that question on a Slack channel, I said, "Hey, here's a blog post you're looking for," because people
Mm.
are seeking information on that Slack channel. And
Mm.
so that was my social media tool. That's where I hung out. That's where I got like my first 10, 20 customers, because people were looking for that information. My target audience was hanging out on there. I still hang out on there. I became friends with the admin of the community member. I did a couple of webinar sessions, but it was just building a brand, but through content. And through content, some people actually converted. And
Mm.
that was just to give you an example. Like, they were hanging out on Slack, so I had to use Slack. So don't be on everywhere, just be where they're seeking information, learning, taking an action, making sure that they are always on top. So for us right now, it's interesting, it's like Facebook and Instagram, because all the homeschooling moms, I'm talking about
Mm.
homeschooling moms, talking about specific persona of specific category, are hanging out on Facebook. They're like
Mm.
50 plus homeschooling Facebook groups, right? That's my place where I should be hanging out and promoting my content or what my business. So it's just like where they're hanging out. Like, it's where they're hanging out is easier to still answer, but
Mm.
who is that is the harder to answer. And so
Mm.
if you can answer who that is, and what do they like, what do they dislike, what their pain, what is their desire, what they want to get out of their specific topic, it gets easier.
Nice. This is you've given a very, all your answers are so practical. I feel like anybody listening to this is going to be like, okay, yeah, yeah, this is what I need to do, because it's not philosophical at all. Because you've come from such a, let's say, place where you've just executed whatever was your problem in front of you, and you're speaking from that experience. So absolutely, I love the point on judgment, because you're getting paid for judgment, and that's something that. I think a lot of people, even when they're hiring or when they're doing marketing, they forget, either as marketers or as founders, that they're not hiring for skill, which is of course important. But I think it's become so easy to now implement a lot of these things that it's become a question of judgment, which is a I really like the way you put that. But you touched upon synthesis school, okay, at the end of that answer, and let's talk about that, man. Like, what is that? How big of a jump was that for you in terms of generally, like, was that a jump, not a jump? Tell us a bit more about what it is like to be a growth lead there, and what's it about overall, because I think you know it better than people. Let's say we just know it from a little bit from the outside, but you of course know a little bit from the inside now. So
Yeah.
help us out with that.
So first of all, like, I got attracted to synthesis because it's sure it was Elon, but like, I was listening to a podcast somewhere in October 2020, and I like, hey, kids are missing the social element in their life,
Mm.
and they're playing games. How about we just make games that actually teach them, and so they don't have to be like worried about screen time and getting addicted to a game, because then the game is actually teaching them something. So I came up with this idea, and that was the main reason. And then Elon was there, so like, oh, Elon is also saying the same thing. Okay, great. um so just to give you some context on synthesis, I actually got demoted to my actual position, what I had. Like, I was a head of growth slash head of marketing in my
Mm.
previous two roles. And the reason why I joined synthesis, even though with no title, or like a short with a much younger title, was because um, I just came for mission, man. I'm there to, like, this is the future. And like, even if I always thought about like, hey, now I have all the skills, right? Either I will
Mm.
start my own indie business and like will get to 1 million myself, or will get to somebody else and
mm,
get them to 100 million or 1 billion, because like that's my next goal. And I want
mm,
to be that early employee to help that specific mission, because right now we still have early adopters.
mm,
And so I said, I want to use my skills for the right thing. It was a mission based. I'm a missionary. I'm not a mercenary. I'm no more a bootstrap guy. I'm like, oh, we have money, we have resources, we are changing the world. So, okay, this is how I want to do. And so these were two different options, and I took a role which was like um, much less in terms of prestige for me. And so and I said, okay, let's do it, because like I don't care about leadership, I don't care about title, it doesn't correlate with my monetary aspect, because I still can get paid same one. So that was one thing. And the second thing is like how it is in synthesis. Like what I can tell you is that from the outside it looks really amazing. Okay, it's
mm,
amazing, and from like we have made sure that's amazing. But it's just like another startup. It's like
mm,
chaos. And actually one of the synthesis axiom is chaos. So we
mm,
are playing synthesis while being in synthesis, is because like there was like Twitter that was working for us, where you found us from,
mm,
and Anna. Um, but there was no channel other than Twitter that was working for us. So like
mm,
I had to go figure out which channel is working, who's the audience, why do they love us, what is our beachhead market, which is now we've know homeschool audience and gifted kids mom and parents. And then I figured that out. So I did exactly the same thing, figure out who the customer is, where they're
mm,
hanging out, and now should we reach out to them organically or should we reach out to them paid. And since
mm,
like the company wants to grow fast, we can take the advantage of paid right now and keep
mm,
thinking how we can make organic things work for us. So for example, a gifted kid mom, an organic one, she's always thinking, hey, gifted kid mom might not be gifted herself, so she wants
mm,
to know all the resources that can help her kid. So now I
mm,
can create a content for that gifted kid mom, will not immediately convert, but she will be brand aware, and then
mm,
she will eventually say, hey, one of the resources is synthesis, so why not, I should enroll. So this is
mm,
organic way, but this will take longer time, right? So I
mm,
said, okay, I'm here, and as a growth person, actually any role, you need to prove your worth in first 3 months.
mm,
Okay.
mm,
So
mm,
I came in, figured out which channels, where, how, figured out what are the conversion rates, figured out where the friction points were. Yeah. So the when you do the organic content, and so it will take longer.
mm,
It might eventually rank on Google as well, because the content is so good. Like right now, when I see the content that is written on Google and has so many backlinks, is actually not good anymore. So like it's
mm,
very easy to rank on those content, and it will take a lot of time. So
mm,
the whole idea is like if you want to get growth now,
mm,
right? You need to start with paid ads and like use their money to reallocate the resources to organic. So you have a blended CAC going down. And the second thing is that this is another framework I've learned from Jesse Puji. I don't know if you know him. He's
yeah,
also
yeah, and
so
push.
he talks about like
Mm,
if it's something new,
mm,
then nobody's searching for it on Google.
mm, mm,
And if it's something not new and people are searching on Google, then Google should be one, right? So
mm,
since it's so new,
mm,
it's not an online learning platform,
mm,
it's not Udemy, it's not something people are searching for. People are
mm,
searching for either games or courses.
mm,
Nobody's searching for synthesis like that. So that's why you have to go through social.
mm,
So that's why all the booster is coming through Twitter and Facebook and Facebook ads, because that's where the people are hanging out and learning about this new thing in the world, which is like, hey, where education meets gaming, and gaming actually helps make kids think critically and solve problem together, which is a skill that we didn't have in school,
mm,
right?
mm. Nice. Yeah, but okay. I'm getting like so many thoughts and so many questions. All right. Okay, cool. So, since you're working with like, let's say, synthesis, there's already a brand recognition of Elon, of course, which is there. So as soon as somebody, of course, goes to the landing page, I think the first or second line, as soon as you scroll down, is like, oh, there's a mention of Elon Musk. And how important do you think this is in terms of acceptability of the ideas you're trying to push through your marketing? That there is already an established, let's say, brand, versus if you were, so let's say, not having that, because that's a big thing. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, I think it is really helping us a lot.
Mm,
Having Elon's story there with synthesis, and that he was part, like he was the one who started the concept, and that we took over from him. Um, I think it's like this is currently our wedge. You know, a wedge is something that is like your unique point. Like, okay, great, you can have everything, but
mm,
how do I trust you? Oh, you Elon started this. Okay, so like that. So it says our wedge for sure. Even on our paid ad section, if you go look at our ads on Facebook ads library, you will see like many of the time the ads that are working are Elon ads.
mm,
Um, I try to like now focus on homeschooling a lot and like gifted kids now, but like hack on Elon ad is like too low to like say, yeah, man, like how can I not use that angle? Um, but at some point, at some point synthesis will be bigger itself, that we don't
mm,
need to use somebody else. But like because it's still early stages, right?
mm, mm,
You
mm,
still need to use something that is like that you need to bank on something. So for example, even for Twitter, for example, sometimes like when you start Twitter, the idea is that instead of you starting a Twitter thread and giving so much value, go comment on the great tweets, and then
mm,
so people will find you. And so it's that, like, so I'm using that for now. We call it audience auditioning. Arvid Carl says audit auditioning, and that's what I'm doing with synthesis and Elon. But for sure, as soon as we have more proof, more anecdotes, I even think personally, like that's what I told them when I was applying. I think we should have a documentary of something like that on Netflix,
yep.
where people are going to watch this and say, "Oh, this was missing in our education system." And like if you've seen that explained documentary on
Mm,
Success or 100 Humans on
mm,
something like that, or something like minimalist documentary,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
Talking about like this new phenomena that's happening. And so minimalist took 10 years to really
mm.
people adopting it, and so I think this is a new concept, and like it will take a while. And so I think like instead of spending just money on pay rates, I would have actually done something like that on content. And will still like I'm still pushing that idea, although I've never done documentary myself in terms of like at this big scale. But we need to do this. We have a book coming out soon
Mhm.
by Anna, so like that would be also pushing the mission forward. But I think in order to grow fast and a lot of people to adopt, we need to be on somewhere Netflix and fund this maybe in millions of dollar project to let people just know the concept and the category itself.
Mm.
And that's where I think like the most amount of big swings will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think going by the entire category design ethos, and I think Webflow recently came out with a documentary, Webflow TV or something like that. They like a series of documentaries. They've got The Future, they've got like Rand Segal, a bunch of these guys who've been in part of that entire Webflow design aesthetic, that game. And I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fantastic idea. But it's so interesting because you've got like this push towards the long term, yeah, but like you also want to close the gap on
Now,
yeah, the now. And I think that's I think one of the hardest modern day marketing challenges for everybody, as any marketer, is how are you doing, let's say, both, or how are you trying to do both, because with the same amount of resources, with the same amount of budgets and all of that.
yeah, so I think the principle is 60/40.
Mm,
60% should be focused on now, 40% in the future, which is basically branding and performance. And
mm,
that's how I think about it. And actually, everything is performance. Even branding is performance as well.
mm,
But that's how I think about it. And how I think about it is like, what do we need now? What goals do we need to reach right now? If
mm.
the goal is to get to x many students enrolled, then let's focus on now, and then keep building that in the future as well.
Nice. We're going to keep it short and sweet. It's been a great thing so far. I want to ask you a couple of questions, which we normally do. These are a little more simpler and never easy, but simpler. So, who are the people who you learn from? You mentioned a lot of people throughout, but who are the, like, let's say, your favorite people who you learn from, who you want to share with anybody listening here?
I think people should follow Amanda and Navidat
Mm,
on Twitter, and people should follow Julian.com.
mm,
People should follow. So I'm recently learning a lot from Shan Puri and Sampar.
mm,
Both are on Twitter as well as their podcast. So that's like my favorite podcast. I don't miss it. Um, and there's one podcast that they actually suggested was how to take over the world,
Mm,
like how greats actually have done it, and
mm,
that's amazing. So like I'm a history guy and I love history, so what people have, I just don't want to do the same mistake that people have done in the history.
mm,
So that's follow that, and that's amazing. um if you want to learn and like really quickly adapt growth marketing skills, do try demand curve.
mm.
It's cool growth program. I personally love it, so definitely recommend you that.
Great. And give us a little bit more about books, man. Like, do you read, or do you are you a reader? Are you, because you are a listener of podcasts for sure, but do you also read stuff?
I mean, I do read. I'm also listening to a lot of books as well,
Hmm.
because I'm commuting a lot. But like the book that I would recommend right now is the book, The Boron's Letter. I love copywriting, so The
Hmm.
Boron's Letter, the Adweek copywriting book.
Hmm.
I think if you can master one skill is copywriting. If you can do it really well, then you can do anything. You can sell anything, right?
Hmm.
As Naval said, if you become if you can sell and if you can build, you're unstoppable. Like, so at least sell.
Hmm.
um, and the copywriting books, the third copywriting book will be The Ultimate Sales Letter.
Hmm.
The fourth copywriting book will be, I would say, what was the book called? I am, oh yeah, Cash Advertising. These are
Hmm.
like four books I would recommend.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, these are they're very hands-on. I think except for the Halbert one, which is a little more goes a bit more in depth because you have to really uncover what he's trying to
I
do.
mean, he's telling stories. In stories,
Mm.
he's telling like a couple of golden nuggets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the way it was positioned as well is brilliant. It's like, okay, he's in jail, and then people, he's writing letters to his son.
Yeah.
That entire, all these kinds of stories go really well. I don't know. Jay Abraham is another guy who's
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, he had a similar book, Mr. X, of his ex-employee or partner who stole everything and went and sold everything. The book is around that. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, absolutely love this, man. Super cool stuff. I know you have to head. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast, and all the best to your super synthesis school growth stuff, man.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here, and thank you for having me, man.
Thank you.